abstaining from lustful indulgence strengthens your spiritual shield. What I mean by that is, when you give in to lustful content, whatever the case is, and it puts you in a weaker state of mind, and it allows the dark side, Emperor Palpatine, whatever it is, the devil, demons, whatever the case, to enter your mind and your body way more easily, because it literally weakens a shield, the shield of God that's around you. And when you abstain from these things, you strengthen your shield every single time you deny this type of stuff. And literally, it creates protection around you from situations you shouldn't be in, people you shouldn't be around, whether it's men or women or whatever the case. And it literally keeps you on the narrow path of God. So if your shield is weak and you come across Jezebel, let's say, could use the term Jezebel, of a girl who's revealing, whatever the case is, being very flirtatious with you on the first time meeting you, clearly not looking for anything long-term or serious, and she finds you attractive or whatever it is, maybe you have money or something, whatever the case is, and she wants you. If your shield is weak, you're not going to have as much of that willpower to be able to deny that person who's wrong for you. You're not going to have as much logic in the moment. You will have the logic in general, but in those moments, you're way more susceptible to having a moment of weakness. And the thing is, those moments of weakness may not seem like a big deal, but everything has a spiraling effect, whether it's negative or positive. I mentioned this in a previous video, where if you do the right thing, just once, it'll turn into twice, and just twice changes everything. But on the contrary, it's the same the other way around. You do the wrong thing once, and then let's say that same situation happens like a few days later or a week later, you're like, I had random pointless sex with that girl last week, I might as well just do it again. And now it turned into a negative cycle of indulging in this lustful activity often. But on the contrary, if your spiritual shield was stronger, which means you retained yourself, you stopped watching that content. Now in that same situation that week before, you're like, no, I'm okay. I'm all right. I'm all good. I'm looking for a wife. I'm looking for a husband. I don't want to indulge with any type of lustful activity with you. I'm all right. I want to respect my body, and I want to show respect for yours as well. And once you make that decision, now, let's say, again, like a week later, same type of situation comes around, you're like, oh man, I already denied it last time. I could deny it again. And you deny it again. And now you did it twice where you denied it twice in a row. So now you're on this positive spiral of, oh, I only want somebody pure. I only want the one for me. What inspired me to actually make this video was I was just watching Speed stream. And on Speed stream, this girl who was visibly drunk showed up out of nowhere and just started talking to them and everything. And she was just talking to them. And she didn't say anything bad at first, at least. She didn't say anything bad. She was actually being very cool. She was a cool girl. She was visibly drunk, but she was having a good time. And you know what? All respect. But she ended up at some point mentioning something sexual. I remember what it was, but I don't even want to say it. But at some point she mentioned something sexual. And it was funny because like Speed and I had the exact same reaction at the exact same time of, okay, this conversation is done. Like what I'm saying is I would have done the same thing he did, which was literally he didn't say another word to her and he just walked away. And I loved to see that because it was just one of those situations where like, okay, your intention seems cool at first, but now I don't know what the situation is. So I'm just going to leave. Now I'm uncomfortable. Now I'm just going to leave the situation. And honestly, that showed that Speed actually has a strong spiritual shield around him, because somebody who had a weak spiritual shield would have played into that and been like, oh, okay, like what you mean by that, and tried to like get her number, get her something, you know what I mean? But Speed had a very strong and noble response to that of just literally leaving the situation. And I was like, yo, like one of those like, yo, I'm glad he's famous type moments, because I was just like, that's inspiring. Like there's 50,000 people watching, 50,000 young impressionable kids and young impressionable people just saw Speed completely disregard a girl damn near trying to throw himself at him in a lustful way. That's amazing. That's like, I was so happy to see that. And like I said in previous videos, you get to a point where you realize giving in to lustful desires never turns out as a good situation. Like 0 out of 10 times does something positive come out of a random lustful encounter. Because let's say you have random lustful encounters and with the same girl, let's just say, and then you end up dating her. That relationship, I feel like, doesn't ever end up lasting. At least from my experience of what I've seen. People who have had sex with each other and then got together and dated never lasted. At least what I've seen. And when you have a stronger spiritual shield, you have more emotional control. So in situations where a girl or a man is trying to throw themselves at you in a negative-ish way, you know what I'm trying to say, like in a more lustful way, you're not going to be like, oh, yo, get at it. You know what I mean? You're not going to be disrespectful. You're just going to, like Speed did, just walk away. You're just going to walk away. He didn't say not one thing disrespectful towards her at all. He was actually being very nice to her, because she was actually being she's a cool person. But the moment she got sexual, he didn't even engage in any type of, I think the only thing he said was like, yo, that's wild. And he just walked away, which is just his natural reaction. Like, you know what I mean? Like, yo, that's wild. And just walked away. Because you don't need to play into the game of ego. You know, when you have a stronger spiritual shield, you realize that you don't need to win anymore. You know? And you don't feel like you need to prove yourself in a way. It's just kind of like, I'm okay here. I'm going to go this way. And that's honestly a main reason why I deleted my social media, because, you know, I'll probably eventually make a video about this at some point. But just to touch on it quickly, I just feel like when I was on social media, all I wanted to do was try to be as cool as possible and try to make people think that I was as cool as possible. And I just realized, like, why am I doing this? You know, why do I want to try to prove myself and make people think like, you know, people who haven't seen me in a long time, like, oh, let me try to look as cool as I possibly can with this picture of clothes that I spent way too much money on that I should probably sell anyway, that I never even wear, because now I literally just wear like regular stuff. You know what I mean? It's just so, I just realized like how, like what I was doing, and I was like, why am I doing this? Like, why do I care so much? Why is my self-validation dependent on somebody else, of what they think of me? That's crazy. And you realize, like, when you're scrolling, you're just constantly in this comparison state of mind, and it's not healthy. The way to strengthen your spiritual shield is honestly reading the Word of God. That's what's helped me a lot. Meditation, retaining yourself, whether it's regarding lustful content or lustful encounters in public, or whatever the case is in general. I feel like retaining yourself really helped me a lot. I've said this in multiple videos. It definitely changed my life and gave me a different perception on a lot of things. Because that's a major key in strengthening your spiritual shield. When your shield is weak, you don't even give yourself a chance to look at a girl in a pure way. You don't even give yourself a chance to view her soul. It's like trying to hear a violin when there's like a loud lawnmower, if that makes sense. You know, it's like you just can't. You don't give yourself the chance to, unless, you know, once you really start to abstain from these things, that's when the lawnmower quiets and you allow yourself to hear the beautiful violin, the beautiful woman, the beautiful man for who they actually are and their soul and everything. But yeah, shout out to Speed for inspiring me to make this video. And yeah.